Let's call the October 13th special meeting to order. Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Recording in progress.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Fruin,
Here.
Councilmember Mohan,
Here?
Councilmember Wong,
Here.
Vice Mayor Moore,
Here?
Mayor Chow.
Here.
And Mayor, I just want to announce that Councilmember Wong will be participating remotely for this meeting, and so I will be requesting a roll call vote for any votes that council, for any action that council takes tonight.
Yeah, thank you. So we don't have any postponements for orders of the day. And first, item 3 is legislative updates from California State Senator Josh Becker and California State Assembly member Patrick Aarons. So we are really, really honored to have the two legislators representing us. Thank you for attending our council meeting. We will be taking public comments after this item, so we will have the presentation from the legislators and the questions from council members first, and then we open for public comment. So we would like to treasure this time to hear from our legislators.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Well, it's a real honor to be here and really, I say fun to be here in person. Although I was driving, it was reminded of like the old Snoopy cartoon. It was a dark and stormy night, because it certainly is. So, thank you to the council. Thank you for the work that you all do. How long, I want to leave time for questions. How long should I just give like maybe a 5-minute kind of overview and then time for discussion?
I think 15 will be okay.
For the whole time though, right?
For your presentation.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll probably be a little shorter than that, but we'll.
It's very heartily that we welcome your presence here. So, yeah, we do want to hear from you about the exciting things you do at Sacramento.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, I do want to make sure we leave time for questions. But happy to give an overview. This was It was a difficult year in the legislature. We started out actually with a budget surplus, but then after actions from the Trump administration, ended up with a budget deficit. And that's never fun. We had to come back and figure out ways to close that deficit that's projected to be worse in the next several years. And so I'll come back at the end and circle back a little bit more to some of the budget issues. But there remains significant uncertainty, particularly around health care. It won't be a surprise to any of you. But seeing how the federal action on health care, and depending on how this current standoff and shutdown is resolved, is going to actually have a big impact on California. So that's one piece that we're continuing to monitor. There's a chance we go back for a special session. Hopefully not, but there's a chance we do have to go back in a special session. And the way that the Senate does is the governor comes out with his budget in January. We have all of the governor's solutions, what they're going to say, which projects, which programs are scheduled for reductions or deletions, and then the Senate votes in each of our kind of the 5 sub-budget sub-areas, each item, and then we kind of have a negotiating position for the Senate. So it's quite an extensive process. The other issue, which was really a big theme this year, was around the ICE raids. And in addition to serving as your senator, I also serve as chair of the Bay Area Caucus, which is the 27 Bay Area legislators. And so I spoke on behalf of the caucus, and also did a lot of work with the caucus on the raids, preparing for raids, understanding what was happening, especially in Southern California. The National Guard, of course, getting called in and trying to push back against that. And then just looking at the ICE, again, the ICE raids and the economic impact on the Bay Area, working with the Bay Area Council, which showed that over half, there's 2 million, roughly 2 million undocumented immigrants in the state. Roughly half have been here 20 years or more, and of course working, paying taxes for benefits that they will never receive for the most part. And we had a number of bills in the legislature this year, which I co-authored a number of them, dealing with ICE agents and trying to make sure that they don't remain masked. Again, there'll be some federal issues, but that was a piece. Trying to make sure our hospitals and our schools remain as safe places. And those pieces of legislation did pass and should have an impact. But it's a really horrible situation where you have many children in the state afraid to go to school, families afraid to go to school. I've met with families who've had loved ones detained and they have no idea where they are. And that's, of course, going to be an ongoing issue as the ICE budget has ballooned to, I don't know, 50 billion, 300 billion. It's at the federal level it's a massive private army now, and we'll be living with the repercussions of that for a while. In terms of my personal focus, in addition to those other areas, I chaired the Senate Energy Committee, and so this was a huge year for energy. I'm really proud of the work that we did, and a lot of work that we really had to do. One piece, which was had to do with our cap and trade system. So this is our fundamental price on carbon. So this is how we regulate carbon in our entire economy. And this was our time to look through and say, okay, we have the system in place. Is it working? Is it not? And how are we going to structure it going forward till 2045? And not just the system itself and how it works, but also the money it generates. It should generate $4 to $5 billion a year. And then we should be spending that on things that actually reduce CO2 emissions. But this year, the revenue from that really went down because there was uncertainty about whether the system would continue, what it would look like, whether we would ultimately be able to partner up with other states, synchronize our system with, say, Washington State, which has a fantastic cap and invest system, and Quebec. We got that accomplished. Happy to answer any questions. And we did it in a way that's going to return a lot more money in a climate credit that is generated that goes directly to people's pockets. And rather than them getting that in April and October, which they get it now when bills are pretty low, we're going to get that to folks when they need it the most. So that's going to be a significant difference. Ultimately, it's about $60 billion over the lifetime of the program, so 24/5, $60 billion that will be returned to citizens of the state in the form of the climate credit. A bill that I ran was SB 254, dealing with wildfires and utility bills in general. One of the main complaints that I hear is about utility bills. And I did a whole town hall on this, and I'm sure many folks participated. Many folks also are solar customers in this area, and they were very concerned about bills in the legislature that would have really kind of reneged on the promise of solar customers and the deal that people signed up with. It would have stopped the deal that people had agreed to. And fortunately, being Energy Committee chair, I was able to stop that bill and change it significantly to a bill that did not target solar homeowners, but it had a lot of other affordability provisions. First of which is that we said in the bill that $6 billion of utility spend, $6 billion that they spend on wildfire mitigation can't be rate-based. So that means they can't earn a rate of return. They have to do the work, but they have to do the work with securitized debt rather than equity, which they get a guaranteed 11% rate of return on. So that was a big win. And then we also set up a system for public funding of transmission infrastructure. PG&E alone has said they're going to spend, I think, $75 billion just by 2030 on infrastructure. So this starts to set up a public funding system so we can do, like New Mexico's done, New York finances a lot of their infrastructure this way as well. Estimates we could save almost 40 to 50% of those projects if we do it in this way. So we'll start that, and Turn, which is the utility reform network, has said that the first part of the bill I mentioned will be $300 to $400 million a year in savings, and the second part, if fully executed over a number of projects, will be about $3 billion a year in savings. There's also a lot to that bill, which was around replenishing the wildfire fund, which is sort of this existential piece. We set up a $20 billion wildfire fund for victims of wildfires. Thought that would last 20 years. LA fires are so significant that that fund could be exhausted if Edison is found not negligent, but even if they're found that their equipment was at all involved, then that fund will go to that and could be dissipated. So we created an additional fund, which won't be any additional money for ratepayers until 2036. So in 2036, it'll continue a surcharge that's on there right now. And the utilities themselves will put up $9 billion towards that fund, and their money comes first from 2029 till 2035. Anyway, really critical for us and for any potential wildfire victims. But the biggest thing is, how do you prevent wildfires? And so we did a lot of work on this, something I've done a lot of work on over the years. I chaired the budget subcommittee for a number of years, where the resources subcommittee, which oversees all wildfire spending, all water, all natural resources, and in that, I doubled the CAL FIRE funding for the first time this year. Now we have year-round CAL FIRE people, because the fires in LA happen in January. Usually that's when our seasonal wildfires are not working. And so for the first time now, we will have year-round firefighters. But we also have to focus increasingly on prevention, early detection, early suppression. So I funded a lot of camera systems for early detection, LiDAR, radar, and we also have the largest aerial firefighting force in the world. So we're 20 minutes from any fire. So barring a situation with massive winds like we had in LA, we've shown really ability to get to fires quickly and put them out. That being said, we have to be continually watchful, which ties into the other issue. I'm on the insurance committee. So I know insurance is another big issue that we hear from residents, where their insurance rates have gone up significantly. In some cases, they can't get insurance. And we did a lot of things over the last year or two to bring insurers back to California. That's starting to bear fruit, despite what happened in LA. But we still have a lot of work to do to shore up our insurance system. So I'm very much involved in those insurance issues, as well as the wildfire issues and the energy issues. In the bill that I passed, SB 254, had the wildfire fund, had those savings I mentioned. It also has some streamlining permitting for clean energy, particularly around batteries. Which was a theme this year. We did a lot of streamlining, CEQA streamlining for housing, as you may know, as well. Really trying to make it easier to build things in California. And I have a whole select committee, which we're going to have our first meeting next week, which is around technological innovation as well as economic development. So our first hearing is going to be on AI and potential job loss from AI and looking at that. And then the next hearing is going to be around economic development, which is how do we, so many technologies are developed here. R&D is in California, but then they build their factories in other states. And how do we actually build more of that in this state? There's another issue related to the energy issue, but then I'm very involved in around, more broadly speaking, around economic development. And so it was a big year for a number of those pieces. We created a Western grid, which people have tried. I took a number of issues this year that people have worked on for, in some cases, that was over a decade. And we really brought everybody to the table and came up with something that was signed off by every major environmental group, Environmental Defense Fund, Natural Resource Defense Council, Sierra Club, as well as business. People who never agree on anything actually agreed on this, and we were able to get that through at the last minute. Was a big, if you talk to people who are involved in this, that's actually the biggest thing in energy policy in the West in the next 20 years. I'll mention one other really significant area I've worked on in healthcare in a variety of ways. And I passed another bill, which is a national issue, which is around prior authorization. So insurance companies delaying or denying care by requiring prior authorization. And as mentioned, it's a national issue. Last 5 years, we've had very competent legislators try to take this on and not be able to get it passed. There was a whole package of bills around prior authorization with the California Medical Association this year, and mine was the only one that was passed. And the governor said this is really the framework we want to move forward with, and happy to talk more about that. But 13% of doctors said that 25% of doctors said that delay of care had resulted in serious medical consequences, and 13% of doctors in California said that delaying or denying care has led to a serious illness or death. So this is something that we had to take on. We had to fix. So happy to talk about that. I'd like getting feedback from the council, Councilman Wong. We did a number of sessions, including on a bill by Assemblymember Zabur it was sort of around the issue of community colleges and what can they build in the surrounding area, but it also included satellite campuses as well. And I did stay off of that bill. I did not vote for that bill, but that bill did ultimately pass, and I appreciated the feedback and the conversation that we had with the board, the folks who reached out on that particular piece of legislation. Unfortunately, the governor did veto one of my wildfire bills that was really around just today. I was doing a KQED interview on it, KQED, because they were following it very closely. That piece was really around better coordination, who should be doing what work and where. So should it be done? So our utilities, for example, spend $10 billion a year on wildfire mitigation, $10 billion, and that's admirable. But are they doing are they spending it on the things that are toughest to do and the things that really need to get done, or are they doing the easiest work that could be done for a lot less? So this bill really is about that kind of planning piece, and then also about the Zone 0 regulations, which will be implemented now here over time. Anyway, that bill got vetoed by the governor, so we'll be back in discussions on that piece as well. That's a little bit of an overview. Happy to take any questions from the board. Happy to come back to the budget pieces as well too.
Mm-hmm. So Assemblymember Patrick has just arrived in time. Yeah. So do we want to do question now or hear from Assemblymember first? So yeah, why don't we just do the question now as well? It's fresh. And any quick question for? If not,
No.
We'll just welcome Patrick. Yeah. So I think we will do public comments after the council question, so we don't take up too much time of the legislators.
Okay.
Yeah. So
should I stick around for?
Yeah, stay around, and maybe the council will come up. We'll have questions if you can. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I'm sure he's going to answer
Thank
whatever
you.
else I left out.
I'm sure.
And it's been wonderful to have, I just say, working with, Pat, I joke that, we said we knew he'd be a breath of fresh air, but he's a wind of fresh air. And he's just been, and always you've been in the wind, apparently. But been wonderful working with you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Senator. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Senator Baker. It's jam-packed with information. I'm sure I have to rewatch and then reread and read your website to understand more about this. So really thank you for giving us a breadth of different areas that you have worked on. Yeah, welcome, Patrick.
Thank you so much, Mayor, and thank you so much to the City Council for inviting me to present to you what we will hopefully see as a really regular update to the city of Cupertino about the work that me and Senator Becker, as our relatively new senator representing Cupertino, can give you legislative updates and work in partnership. I do believe my office had a slideshow prepared to present.
Oh.
If we can present that on the screen. Great. I will go quick so we can get to any questions that you all have. And it's raining, and I don't have an umbrella. Thank you. It didn't melt. But I agree with, whatever you agree with Senator Becker on, I worked with him on. If you don't agree with it, then I had nothing to do with it. Here is just a brief outline that we've submitted to you all. These are all of the committees that I either chair or am a part of. As you can see, similar to the City of Cupertino, we are organizing ourselves in the legislature by the committees that we serve on. I'm honored to be appointed to the Technology and Innovation Caucus as the co-chair, where I am giving regular updates to the state legislature on the latest AI and innovative bills that are coming before the state legislature. As innovation is really the birthplace here in Silicon Valley, it affects the entire state of California. In fact, if our tech industry doesn't succeed, it largely depends on whether or not we have a budget surplus in the state of California due to our tax system. And so we have a small, as I like to say to my colleagues throughout the state of California, we have a small agricultural company here in my district, Apple. That usually gets louder applause, but
We've heard it.
you've heard it before. We have NVIDIA. But we also have great need in this district as well. As you all are aware, we're hearing from constituents every day about the high cost of housing and the cost of living, and how we really need the state legislature to focus more on bringing down affordability issues. That's why I'm really proud to working in conjunction with our state senator to really address our utility concerns, our wildfire concerns, especially in the Cupertino foothills, our insurance concerns, and we have more to do. Our budget, just quick highlights. Because of the divestment from the federal government, we've doubled down in this past budget and have allocated $52 million to our food banks. We are seeing a huge increase. As many of you are aware, West Valley Community Services, Sunnyvale Community Services, the Bill Wilson Center, many of these food bank operations, Second Harvest Food Bank, they all are serving more and more need. And so the legislature has invested in that. An increase in state funding for affordable housing, preserving the $500 million in low-income housing tax credits was a huge priority for the senator and I, including $60 million in one-time funding to support student block grants, $5.1 million to fund one-time funds to support our financial aid system, especially for our community college students. And we also saved $4.6 million and $14 million in 26-27 for our CalWorks program. In public safety, we've invested over $100 million to support organizations that help serve crime survivors, historic investment. My first bill got signed by the governor, so now I'm officially a lawmaker now that the governor has signed it, and it helps students with financial aid and dependency status who may be separated from their parents but need access to financial aid so they can better themselves and get a higher education. We also have decriminalized truancy in the state of California, thanks to my bill just signed by the governor. Right now on the books, we had a bill in place where you could be fined up to $2,000 and be imprisoned for 1 year in jail if you have more than 3 unexcused absences in school. And listen, we want students to go to school. Every data metric says that they do better when they go to school, but imprisoning their parents doesn't help them, or finding their parents doesn't help them do that. We need more resources in the community, more resources for our parents, not less. That is going to help our students. We also have a AB 1314, my bill. It's a transitional housing placement bill that helps further reduce barriers for foster youth placement in our county system. I was a proud co-author of our Diwali state holiday, as I mentioned to some of you who joined us at the Diwali festival in Cupertino. Officially recognizes Diwali as a state holiday and allows for that to be taken in some circumstances. I'm also a proud co-author of our meal program for senior citizens. A few 2-year bills, meaning that in the second year of this legislative cycle, I'm continuing on those. One is our mobile home residency protection program. My district has the second most mobile homes in the entire state of California. And so providing further protections for them and their rights is critically important. It's one of the largest, affordable housing situations that many people can get into en masse is our mobile home parks, especially in Sunnyvale and Santa Clara. my water conservation bill that allows for a water-wise designation for our business community, because we need to continue to conserve water, although you wouldn't know it from today. And there's also the establishment of what other states have, which is a people work permit online database, so that if you are a youth in the state of California, I got my worker's permit at 15 and a half and worked here in Cupertino at TGI Fridays when it was still open. There's no statewide database, so there are violations that we've seen companies do where they have students under the age of 18 working more hours than they are legally allowed, or they're being taken advantage of. There's no database to really cover that. They're really handled on a very fragmented individual school district basis, and we're finding that a statewide database will help go after bad actors so that we do not violate child labor laws in the state. And we also have another bill that removes penalties from families receiving CalWORKs benefits if they're truant. Again, we do not need to be punishing students. We need to be providing more resources for students and parents, not threatening to take away their CalWORK benefits. And if you're a CalWORK beneficiary, you are some of the most in need and most eligible, sitting right on or below the poverty line. We need to be giving these resources out so they can better themselves, not threatening to take it away. Our district impacts, I'm really proud. I have my district director, Victoria Lowe, who's here, and Khalil, who is one of my field reps, and we have another field representative, Victoria Pham. They make up our team in the district office, along with 22 interns this year. We've been able to help over 337 constituents addressing issues related to mainly DMV, surprise, it's not a very well-run organization, and EDD unemployment. We've helped over 139 EDD cases and secured over $110,000 for constituents. We've also added up my calendar, and I've attended over 1,400 meetings or events since getting elected last November, and I have the gray hairs to prove that. 43 events we've engaged with over 12,000 constituents who've either come to our booth, come into our office, emailed me, written letters. This is a very engaged district. This is on the higher end, as I'm told by my colleagues. And we've also included, as I mentioned, 22 interns, competitive. I'm actually one of the first assembly members to offer paid internships. So we have a very competitive paid internship program as well. Over 60 volunteers also helping with our community events. My top issues that I'm currently forming my bill priority list for next year are around what people are writing in about: housing, foster youth, technology, education, and general affordability issues. Many of you know I hosted a Policy and Pancakes event last year where anyone can come and submit bill ideas. I'm going to continue that tradition in January, hoping to host it here in Cupertino, where constituents, members of the public can submit what is issues that they're seeing in the community and bill ideas that they would like to see fixed. That is important to me because lobbyists or special interests should not control Sacramento and what becomes law. We should have bill ideas submitted by anyone who has a good idea and thinks that we should be bettering our community. I want that to be open. We've done that in the past under my predecessor, and I want to continue that tradition. And a brief overview of the legislative process. We have to introduce bills in January. I have to get my colleagues in the state assembly to agree. Then we have to, in our committee, it has to get out of committee, it has to go through the floor. I have to convince Senator Becker and his colleagues to vote for it. Then I have to convince the governor, and then it becomes a law. So a lot that goes into it, a lot of amendments that need to go into certain bills, but I'm really proud to be representing Cupertino and really just the diversity of this community, I believe, is our strength. And in other areas where that is under attack and across the state, it's a value and a real honor to represent you all, and also to be held accountable to go before you and present what it is that we are working on in Sacramento and how we can better work together in the future. Any questions?
Thank you so much. It's really good overview of the process. So now we'll just have questions from the council members for either of the legislators. Yeah, Vice Mayor?
Real easy question here. So for members of the public, as the legislative session's going on, and maybe they have an opinion about some of the bills going through, what's the best way for members of the public to let you know what their thoughts are, what their opinions are? Going through the portal or some other method? What really works? And then for the council members, what would you recommend for us?
There is a microphone there also you can use.
Go ahead. You can start, Senator.
Yeah, I think it's probably similar. So we have on the website, when people email in, everything gets tracked through a system that we have called LCMS. So if people email in, we read those. People should get a response. Let me know if they do not get a response. And if it's maybe a bill, if it's during the year and there's a bill that's controversial, so we'll get a lot in, and then the staff will log that. They'll say, okay, we had, 94 people write in for it and 73 people against, right? And then you can sort of dive in and look at the detail. Other times it's just, if it's a one-off particular, about a stoplight in a particular neighborhood or something, then that's obviously unique and we deal with that uniquely. So there's both those scenarios. There's sort of the unique things, and then there's things when people are weighing in on legislation. Now, I'll just say, it's also the time of the year where we are thinking about bills for next year, though it's hard to believe because I feel like just getting over the last session. But also, I have an Ought to Be a Law contest, and there's a bill that I did mention, which was our Ought to Be a Law contest submission, which is to take a pilot, an Equity Express bus, a pilot that was done on San Mateo County coast with the farm workers, and which was telehealth and mental health in a partnership with the life science industry, and to take that and scale it to 2 other locations in California, not with state money, with philanthropic money, but through a state fund. And that bill passed. That was my first Ought to Be a Law contest bill that actually passed, which is great. But anyway, so we'll be opening that up again. So I think for all of us, there's lots of ways to weigh in.
And I'll just say, Vice Mayor, similar to Senator Becker, we are tracking all of our submissions via email and phone call. My district office is here in Cupertino on Blaney and Stevens Creek, so you can also come visit in person. I've also given out my cell phone number on my ballot, so everyone has that. You can always reach me at 408-482-7383. I've gotten some very interesting text messages because I'm giving up my cell phone, but most of them have been very productive.
Okay. So, Council Member Furon and then Mohan.
So I'll direct my first.
And then,
I'll direct my first question to Senator Becker. I was saddened to see that SB 326 got the governor's veto. In reading the veto message, it sounds like he was primarily concerned about how we're going to pay for it all. So do you see there being a path forward on that bill, or is it going to be something that you have to fold into the budget process?
Yeah, thank you. That was what the KQD interview was about today, because as you mentioned, and thank you for reading that, in the veto message, he didn't criticize the bill at all, but just kind of blamed it on cost. Now, my view, this is one of these things where, ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right? We need to be spending this money, but I do understand it's a tight budget year. I'd say 2 things. Number one, in the other bill I referred to, which did pass, 254, the big bill, in the wildfire fund piece, there's a report that's going to be done next year, which is how do we make the fund more durable? And we're going to have to look at a whole bunch of things, the way the insurers are treated, the way the attorneys' fees are treated. All that is going to have to be looked at as part of this report. And part of that, making the fund more durable, is to do a better job on prevention as well. So I think that the topics we raised are going to come up in the report. And I think hopefully the report will then, spur additional legislation and give us a little more justification for some of the expense.
Got it. And then SB 541 suffered a somewhat similar fate. So what do you think?
Yeah,
Given the
yeah.
amount of energy that went into it.
Yeah, I think that was less a. So it was that was a bill that got vetoed, which I was also disappointed at. It's a bill that's in the sort of not necessarily sexy area of how do we use our existing grid more effectively. One thing that became super crystal clear for me this year as energy chair, that outside of about 40 hours a year when the grid is stressed, we're using on average about 45% of our grid. And so we can actually pack a lot more load on the grid if we, number one, know where the choke points are, and then number two, can have verifiable, what used to be called demand response programs, but now there's really a suite of things that can be done to shave the peak during that time. Now, one thing, my other bill, the Western Grid, will help us with that as well, because during, if there's a severe heat wave here, we can hopefully get wind and solar from the east, or geothermal from the south, or hydro from the north. That will also help, but we really need to be able to shave the peak as well, and that's what 541 was all about. And I think next year there's going to be a much bigger focus on this, what we call the distribution grid. There's a study that came out, unfortunately, it was just kind of towards the very end of session, but it said that bill, 541, could save $13.7 billion. So we have to make sure that, I understand the utilities always want to build, more and more, but we have to make sure that we're using our existing grid more effectively. And there's ways to do that in ways that, they get compensated for making sure that the right work gets done as well. So thank you for asking. That particular bill is a particular passion project for me. So that one will certainly come back, I'd say, in some way, shape, or form.
Wonderful. And then my last question
Yeah.
to you is, just with SB 457, it was granted reconsideration at the last minute, so it's a 2-year bill. Do you sense that some version of it has any path forward, or do you think?
Yes, and remind me that we got confused by numbers.
This one would have altered the way that timing on Housing Accountability Act and Permit Streamlining Act functions.
Yeah. I think that will come back in some form. I had a whole conversation about the RENA process today with the open space agencies, with MidPen, and even going through the process of all the bills today, there was a lot of even among a lot of housing advocates, a lot of dissatisfaction with RENA, a lot of expense for some value, but not necessarily the bang for the buck there, really. And I had some number of really concrete kind of suggestions around that. So that'll be an ongoing conversation, but I think we will be looking at that a little bit next year as well.
Okay. And then my last question will go to Assemblymember Ahrens, which is sort of similar. I noticed in your presentation that it looks like you've repurposed AB 1359 to do something different than what you originally intended for it, which was to return some sort of additional discretion to cities who are meeting their pro rata share of the regional housing need allocation. Mm-hmm. Similarly, do you think that there is some version of that bill that might have legs in the second half of this session?
Yeah, and we're certainly talking to stakeholders about that. I got that bill idea from my former grad school professor, who's the mayor of Santa Cruz, Mayor Keeley, Professor Keeley. And as a freshman, I see what has been done in Sacramento around housing, around local control, and I'm really trying to look for more win-win solutions. And I think that's what Cupertino would like to see. I think that's what the residents would like to see, is rewarding good actors and good behavior. And for the members of the public, really that bill and idea is about if you're a pro-housing designated city, that you get certain discretion to go back to some of these housing projects and maybe get a little bit more discretion on some of the height or feet requirements or setback requirements or aesthetic requirements. Not necessarily to say we want to stop projects, but we want to build housing, we need to build housing, but we need to also give cities a little bit more discretion moving forward. And so those types of ideas are a fine needle to thread when we talk about the housing conversations that are happening in Sacramento. But they're needed because I want to be able to bring a little bit more discretion to our city councils who have those pro-housing designations, who have passed their housing elements, and would like to see a little bit of flexibility without stopping the project entirely. I think that's reasonable. I think we should be moving forward on that. And frankly, more conversations need to have, as you've seen in the life cycle to get legislation passed through the Senate, the Assembly, the governor, stakeholders, and all the organizations that I'm sure would want to weigh in on a type of bill like that. I just don't see a lot of that type of conversation happening. It's usually, let's take away all the local control, or let's preserve everything the way it is forever. And there needs to be more of a happy medium where we can build what we need to build, but also have a little bit control in what communities can say if they're doing the right thing.
Thank you.
Okay, so Councilmember Mohan and then Councilmember Wang.
Thank you to both of you. My question is directed to both of you, and it's a more general question about housing. Just in the last year, we've seen a slew of housing bills coming out of Sacramento, and we have a very engaged group of residents who follow the progress of each bill from start to finish. Causes a lot of, and you mentioned local control, and that's a big part of where we are coming from. So my question is, do you see a slowdown of these housing bills in the next year?
Well, I certainly can't predict what my colleagues want to introduce, but I will say that I think that in my short first year in the legislature, I've seen a desire to want to build housing where it makes sense along transit lines and opportunities. And housing affordability continues to elude the legislature. It continues to elude the state of California due to so many factors. And I think that Sacramento needs to be working closer together with our local cities and coming up with ideas that I just mentioned. I think we're starting to sort of turn the page on those types of conversations because there has been such an emphasis on building where it makes sense. And the laws that are in place now are really emphasizing and incentivizing building more housing, new housing, where it makes sense, along rail lines, along light rail. And if our cities and our state can be building along those lines, I think we will see a slowdown if California and if our cities and really the development community can build where it makes sense. But I also want to remind the council and remind everyone watching that we only allow for one way to build housing is really if that's our capitalist society, our developers come in and they build housing. That accounts for over 95% of housing being built in the state of California is at the investment of private entities. There are many different ideas. There's social housing that my colleague Assemblymember Alex Lee has suggested that we invest in public housing. There are limits to corporations owning buying up thousands of single-family homes, driving up and competing with individual families wanting to buy housing. That has been a proposal in the past, and so I think that the issue of building more housing and building more affordable housing will always be there, just as it will always be here in the City Council of wanting to build more. I think that if we can get more housing being built along mass transit lines, I think we will be able to reach our housing goals, and we will see the state of California and Sacramento focus on the myriad of other things that we need to be focusing on if we allow for that development to occur. Senator?
Yeah, I think that's very good. I'll add a couple things. Number one, just for broadly in the bigger picture, holding companies accountable here. we have many large employers, which is great, but we place a lot of large employers in the middle of the suburbs, and so there's a reason we've had these constrained and without a lot of housing inventory, high prices, and so I left a message for one of the folks over at Google today because they're supposed to build 4,000 units at North Bay Shore. They'd agreed to do, and but now they've just sort of been sitting on that land, so they need to either bring in a developer to develop it or develop themselves, figure out what they want to do. But a number of these companies made big commitments. Apple made a $2 billion commitment. Apple actually has been doing actually quite well with they're getting out their loans in a productive way from the research that we've been able to do. But Meta has been called out for not fulfilling its pledge, and Google has a lot of work to do to fulfill its commitments as well that it made very publicly. So that's one thing I'll add. My colleague Bob Hertzberg, who was in the Senate for many years, actually he was Speaker of the Assembly first, and then he got in the Senate. He was Majority Leader. He's been working on a ballot measure that I think he will unveil this year to really focus on, a lot of people talk about that missing middle housing, but so many folks can actually afford the monthly payment, they just can't afford the down payment. He's structured a very large revolving loan fund that would not take additional state money and be able to kind of fund those sort of down payments for folks. We've done that, and we've had the kind of a California, I think we call it the California Dream, and we've had some limited funds for those, and they've gone, it's kind of gone just like that. But it's something that will actually, in any kind of similar kind of structure like that, it feeds itself if we can get it done. So I think we'll see that on the ballot this year. And then, as Patrick said with social housing, a lot of times the developer takes the best lot, and then we get maybe a few affordable units out of it, whereas some of that could be developed for social housing. We've seen this in other trips, even with a very conservative government in Australia, where they have a large number of units of social housing, or really mixed, much more kind of mixed income than we have here. So I think those things are significant. On the building near transit piece that the Assembly member mentioned, I had a bill this year which also says, we have to provide also incentives, financial incentives as well. So we basically said, hey, if there's a development near transit, then some of those additional fees that sometimes get layered on can't be layered on to that development if it's in a specific kind of development we want to encourage. And that bill passed. And then we had the big bill, we had SB 79, which was a big bill around transit. And, for me, Caltrain goes right up through my whole district. So I supported the first time in the Senate to kind of let it keep moving forward. They were adding a lot of elements to the bill around local flexibility and things like that. But ultimately, I said, I represent a lot of small cities. I said for cities less than 100,000 that the radius should be smaller, and they ended up doing it, I think, at sort of 30,000, but not what I had sort of said publicly, so I didn't support it on the way back. But there were a lot of changes made to that and to that bill ultimately, and so there is actually a lot of local flexibility built in. So that's kind of a big impact, I think, especially in the larger cities, in Los Angeles, San Jose, San Francisco. I think that's going to have a big effect. But in answer, to more directly answer your question, I mean, these are all kind of meta issues around housing. I do think we'll see a little bit of a pause, but as some member mentioned, we don't really know exactly what will be introduced. For me, I think it's these pieces around like kind of rethinking RENA and that structure. And the bill I'd originally tried was limiting the builder's remedy as well. That didn't pass. So I think we may see a couple things around that, but I think it really is kind of finding that balance that the Assembly member mentioned.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilmember Wong.
Hi. Thank you for attending here and being here presenting. We really appreciate it.
You might need to be closer to your mic.
Okay. Can you hear me better now? So,
A little better.
Little.
But
give me a
not
setting.
so much better.
Let me change some input settings. How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, good.
Okay, cool. All right. It's very noisy here, as you can imagine. This question to Senator Becker. Who is the #1 state in producing sustainable energy? Do you know the answer to that?
I would say Texas in recent years.
Yes. How do we take that back? And the question is what can we do to recapture that status by removing regulatory hurdles and creating incentives that will provide the right mix for the AI age, from SMRs to battery storage? And then the second question is, what can we do to incentivize municipalities to increase battery storage and help reduce the cost of energy, improve affordability, especially for seniors? So I'll leave you with that. And then I'll go to
Great question.
Kimberly.
And actually, I mean, overall, battery storage is one of the great unsung success stories of California. In 2019, when Governor Newsom started, we had basically no battery storage. And now we have, I think it's about up to 13 gigawatts of battery storage. So that's like, I remember we were debating keeping Diablo Canyon going. And one of my colleagues at the time said, this was in 2022, that we'd already built a Diablo Canyon's worth of battery storage. And at this point now, we've built about 3 Diablo Canyons worth of battery storage. But we still have to move faster, right, to take advantage of all this. We're still, partly my grid bill, Western Grid Bill will help because it'll allow us to export excess solar. But we still have excess solar in many times of the year where we're getting no value from that. And so, in my bill, in SB 254, the very large bill, it's about 300 pages by the end of it. The last part there is streamlining specifically for battery storage, but some other new technologies. And then we have to get to 24/7 clean energy. So it was actually, we've had, I think, 220 days this year, almost every day this year so far, where we've had 100% clean energy for at least part of the day. But we really have to focus now on that peak, that 5 to 9 p.m. Time. That's when people are coming home. They're sometimes plugging in their cars or using their induction cooktop, whatever it might be. And that's really where the real peak is now. And so some of the technologies that you mentioned, whether that be advanced geothermal, ultimately looking at even some of the small, medium-sized reactors, are technologies that we need to be looking at as a state. There's a number of bills, and our colleague Diane Pappin, who I also overlap with, had a geothermal bill. Actually, I think that one got vetoed by the governor, but Chris Rogers' bill, Chris Rogers' bill on geothermal did get passed. So we made some advancements there. And that's where, since I kind of bashed Google in the housing, I will say that's one area that they've really been leading in 24/7 clean energy. That's always been a stated policy of the company, and they're really doing phenomenal work to get to 24/7 clean energy. The last point I'll mention is on data centers, because you brought it up. I think there's a real misconception. I mean, there's a lot of concern nationally about data centers and energy use, and for sure it's something to be careful of, because in other states they've made the mistake of not making the companies pay up front, for example, to do all the infrastructure work for the data center, and sometimes they've been left holding the bag, or it's been a part of the grid where they've given that energy to a company, and the ratepayers there have sort of suffered. But as I mentioned, in California, we have a great deal of excess capacity in our grid. Like, we could do 5 gigawatts of data centers tomorrow, and as long as they could curtail their use 1% of the time, it would actually bring down the prices for everyone, because it would be much more efficient use of our grid. So these are all things I think that we will be looking at next year.
No, that's great. Thank you. And the other question I have is kind of related to that, is hopefully at some point you can help create a situation where every buyer, every producer is a consumer, every consumer can be a producer, and open up the marketplace for resale in a fair manner. So.
Well, I think that's the big part of 541. I mean, the big missed opportunity is now we have about 8 gigawatts of batteries behind the meter, and we're not calling them into service. And that's what really 541 was really about, was trying to create that economic model to do that. I know we're going pretty deep in energy for non-energy nerds, but that's awesome. But that's really what that, and we'll be back next year. And Minnesota actually is one of the leading places to look for that, but we'll be back to work on that next year.
No, thank you so much. And then Assemblyman Aarons, congratulations on being on the California Legislative Technology Innovation Caucus co-chair. How can we tap into the amazing tech talent in the city here to help provide you input as you're the new chair, so that you can tap into the level of talent here, especially in this area as well as the rest of your district? You've got amazing folks there. And then the second question for you, as you think about, is what can we do to improve the business climate for small, medium-sized businesses and affordability for residents? Or can we help support you there?
Thank you so much, Councilmember. Well, the first I will say is that you can attend my pancake breakfast. That is, I host a monthly community coffee or pancake breakfast every month in a different area in one of the cities that I represent. And every single time I have bill ideas being submitted, or people will tell me their opinions about everything. And, or you can just simply go to my website, and we also log that as well. But that is sort of continuing on the tradition of what Senator Becker does and what other legislators do of, you know, the job is in Sacramento, but the job needs to be here, and making sure that I'm accessible. And so we've partnered with Mayor Chow on those, and we'll be sure to keep you updated. And I will say, in regards to the business climate, there, you know, with the affordability crisis that we have in the state of California, it is continuing to elude Sacramento. And as I've told my colleagues, as a freshman legislator, we need to focus more on affordability. How do we lower the utility bills, lower the rent, lower the high cost of living? Silicon Valley feels it in our district more than anywhere else. It is one of the most expensive places to live on the planet. And the California Chamber of Commerce, this past legislative cycle, actually mentioned it's not just about introducing legislation to make it more affordable, but there was 29 bills that would have increased the cost of living in the state of California. 28 of them were not successful in advancing to the governor. And so it is not only about the bills that you introduce and you advocate for, but it's also about the bills that you try to prevent moving forward. And I'm proud to work with anybody who is willing to work with me on trying to lower the cost of living. That is working with labor, that is working with business, small, medium, large, that's working with our flagship tech companies to make things more efficient. We need everyone at the table to be working on that, because what I've seen is a continual fight between labor interests, business interests, advocacy organizations, moneyed interests into our politics, and we need to get out of that. There are several proposals to further do that, but there is far too much undue influence in the state of California on what we should be focusing on. And one thing is for sure is we need to actually mean it when we say we want a better business climate in the state of California, not just use it as a talking point before the Cupertino City Council, but actually focusing on supporting bills to make it easier. And I will just say very briefly, what I'm very interested in as a member of the Budget Committee is looking at the over $75 billion in tax credits that we give out. But you didn't know it was that high. Some of them work wonderfully to help support the business community. Some of them, we don't really know how well they work because the legislature has not evaluated many of these tax breaks since their inception, sometimes 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. And so I'm looking forward to working with my colleagues to either create a select committee or work within the budget committee to say, if some of these tax credits are working for companies and corporations to stay in California and grow more jobs, then let's continue those. And let's also bring those that may not be working, and let's stop those programs. These are our taxpayer dollars, and they have not been reviewed in decades. So all I say is, if your programs are working so well, then they should be reviewed by the budget committee to see how much they're saving and how much they're helping. If they're not working, get rid of them and reinvest those in helping our business community.
Okay, great. It's Councilmember Wang. Do you have any more questions?
No, I want to say thank you and happy to work with both of you on both those issues.
Thank you.
Great. So thank you to hear that you will be reviewing how tax credit works. And I didn't want to ask any question on housing, but I guess I feel that
I think we're out of time. Thanks, Mayor.
Yeah. So we have passed many housing bills. When will legislators take a step back and assess whether any of these is working or not for the intended purpose of reducing housing price, because what we have seen is they are doing the opposite. We have an overproduction of market rate housing. Not only that, the new units are a lot more luxurious and command a lot higher rents, while we are giving them all these waivers and this and that. So we are giving all these waivers, but you have taken away the city's ability to negotiate a higher percentage of below market rate housing. And they are able to now even take waiver on our requirement for below market rate housing for them to be comparable in size, for example. And the reason that, so we are seeing new development, they produce much larger units because there is no limit on size or the height, and they are providing a lot more amenity spaces, which makes them are like living in a 5-star hotel, and therefore the price is very high. As a result, this infill development actually drives up the average area income of the area, which drives up the pricing even for below market rate units, because that's based on the area income and area average rent. It drives up the average rent. Therefore, the rent for older units go up as well. So when will the legislature take a step back and see this law doesn't work? It produce more expensive housing. That's roll it back.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I think that was sort of the conversation that I'm having with my colleagues now around my original bill proposal to reward cities who have pro-housing designated cities, to give them a little bit more local control back to them to be able to decide certain things. And I think that you're absolutely right. I think that we are not doing enough in the state of California, our cities and our state, to encourage more affordable housing. We need to be, first of all, building more housing at all income levels, but there is a huge lack and attention on truly affordable and that missing middle, as Senator Becker was talking about. You even see how flustered and difficult it is to pass this legislation that former legislators, as the senator mentioned, are putting forward potential ballot measures to try and solve this issue, because it is so elusive and difficult to build the bridge that we need to build to pass certain laws in the state of California. But what I will say is, as we continue to build housing, we need to be building housing where it makes sense, along transit lines, as we have done in the past, along rail, light rail, where people can have access to get to where they need to work. And that is where we need to be building new housing, frankly, along mass transit. And that's going to help alleviate for anyone. Building market rate housing helps at all income levels, but the state of California is not doing enough to incentivize truly affordable housing. That is something that I'm going to be bringing forward to my colleagues. That's something that we talk about in the Problem Solvers Caucus, to the mod Democrats, to the conservatives, to the progressive Democrats, is how do we do that? And then there's all these different ways about how we do it. Do we invest more in tax breaks? Do we invest more in incentives in the social housing? People don't like the social housing. They want to provide more tax credits for that. I just came before meeting here with a group of Sunnyvale residents who are seeing their retail space disappear and creating food deserts in their community over housing production. And so there are unintended consequences with many pieces of legislation that we fear is a loss of retail, which hurts our cities, but it's a loss of urban villages that we have promised the community, that you can live and have livable, bikeable, walkable communities to your nearest grocery store. And yet our grocery stores are disappearing in the name of housing. So there's no question that we need to be building more housing along these transit corridors, but we can't do that necessarily at the expense of creating food deserts. I'm going to be proposing a bill that would protect our grocery and our retail sites on a lot of the major housing developments that we're seeing, that provides a tax credit and incentive to developers to maintain a square footage of grocery, so that we're not seeing those go away. And I know that you all are worried about that because I see the development proposals in the city of Cupertino and the concern over the loss of revenue from the loss of retail that is occurring. We need to be working on all of these issues together.
Yeah, we at least 3 sites along Stevens Creek will become townhomes, and then more likely will become townhomes.
And townhomes are not necessarily, they're not the best incentive
Yeah.
to build affordable housing. Market rate townhomes are great for private development, but they're not great
Yeah.
for addressing the affordability crisis. They're not great for your tax base. They're not great for the potential creation of food deserts. And so we need to be providing more incentives, but we also need to
So
be
when
honest with the
this-
constituents about, how difficult that is. And that's
When
not
the
going to be solved
city-
overnight.
Yeah, sorry. So when the city had more discretion, there are cities, I think in San Francisco, they were able to approve a project with 40% below market rate housing. When the city has the discretion to approve a project, we can push for more affordable housing. But the legislators have taken away that discretion from the city. Therefore, you left us nothing to do. For housing designation doesn't help. What we need is for the legislator to slow down and look at the past bills that have passed and really take a hard look at which one actually have been working, which one actually have been making units more expensive. That's what we hope that the legislators can do. And as for housing near transit, I hope that you also, before pushing for this ideal concept, actually look at, does that actually work in cities where I came from Taipei. I lived in Germany near Munich for 2 years. 20 years ago, we solved our car when we moved to Munich within 6 months because their transit system is so, you don't have to near it. When you have a healthy transit system, not everyone need to live near transit, but you need to have a healthy network. And not everyone would be able to find job right on the transit or be able to go to hospital right on the transit. So the network is important. And the commercial center at the transit stop is what makes the vitality of the transit because people will be able to jump to a stop, shop around, and then jump back up. But if you put housing right on the transit stop, as I've seen now, you are going to suffocate the transit system that you hope will be able to be used. So I hope that the legislature actually look at this concept you are trying to push to make sure it actually works elsewhere before passing legislatures.
I certainly would like my senator's input, but I will say that I'd love to sit down with you, Mayor, and I'll show you the data about building along housing along transit corridors is absolutely more effective than building it in cul-de-sacs in Cupertino. We need to be building new housing where it makes sense, which is our transit corridors. That's going to increase and make it more likely if they can. I wish I could be able to take transit everywhere. And I've been to these other countries with high-speed rail, which we won't even get into. That's a whole other council meeting, talking about high-speed rail and many of the issues there. But building housing where people can have easy access to get around in transit is absolutely going to be helpful. But it's suffering right now because of the lack of ridership, because it is not convenient, because our tech companies use private bus systems, because they even see the lack of investment that we are making. Most states, by the way, in the United States, have direct investment from the general fund from the state of California. We do not, and so we need to be doing way more to invest in an interconnected, seamless Bay Area transit agencies. But we also need to be building along our transit corridors. It's essential, it's proven, and I cannot wait to show you more about it.
Okay.
Senator?
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, this is we can talk a lot about this topic, but some members just covered a lot. I'll mention a couple of things that you mentioned, number one, just kind of stepping back and reviewing what's working. I think absolutely. So when I gave a big floor speech to some of our housing bills, I just said, I said to some of the housing, come to the peninsula, right? See what's working and what's not working.
Yeah.
I mean, you take a city like Burlingame. Burlingame last year had more units in development, active development, than the city of San Francisco. And they're able to do it. And so far, with good buy-in from the public. But then again, we're not funding the infrastructure. They're Caltrain. They have the most dangerous railroad crossing in the state, and I thought I'd secured enough money to do a bypass. But then with electrified Caltrain, the price went way up, and now we haven't even been able to fund it yet. So if we're going to ask cities to do the investment, we also have to fund the infrastructure for some of these cities. So I said that very publicly, is that I want, come and see, come see what's working and not working on the peninsula. Across my district, last year, we did 220% of our RENA number for market rate, to your point. Where we didn't hit our numbers is many of the affordable numbers, right, which we do need support for that. And our housing bond has run out, and that funds a lot of our development. So we have a lot of shovel-ready projects here in the peninsula that we need to get funded. So I'm hoping, I co-authored that housing bond. I'm hoping that we'll get the housing bond on the ballot, and hopefully we'll be able to pass that next year, because we have to have resources to fund those affordable units. Otherwise, you have to do it through the forcing developers to do that, which works sometimes, but sometimes it just becomes then not effective, not cost effective to build, right, for them. So we want to be able to fund it in other ways, and some of the creative ways that we're exploring. But again, big picture, some of the things I mentioned, companies stepping up and taking responsibility. The bill that I mentioned to really look at, we really haven't done that much. It's just going to, again, fund down payments for people that want to be able to own their own home and can afford that monthly payment. And then the transportation piece. I mean, that plays into building here, but also a lot of people, they're willing to travel a longer way to commute here for a single-family home, but we don't want that to be in a car, because then they sit in traffic all day. It's bad for them. It's also pollution, and so we do have a ballot measure now that's on the ballot that to better fund extended Bay Area transit. But we do have to look at that transit, especially from areas of more affordability, say in the East Bay, to areas where there tend to be more jobs here over in this area. So a lot more I can say about that, but I do think, to your point about really a pause, I think we have passed a lot, and I think we do need to now look and see what is working. And I think, to Senator Wiener's credit, I know he's the most popular person always around here, but a lot of the bills that he did this year, especially, are really aimed at his own city in San Francisco, because there it just notoriously took like 660 days on average to get anything permitted, and then therefore nothing would get built there. So some of that will actually have a much bigger effect, I think, in some of those cities where some of that development should be, in San Francisco, in Los Angeles, and San Jose. So I think it is a good time to take a pause, but also look at that, look at the RENA process, because I said even many housing advocates I talked to don't like the RENA process. We used to have a much more collaborative approach to housing in a county, and now every city is sort of kind of pitted against each other and have to do their housing element at the same time when the consultants are priced the highest. Across my district, about $25 million we estimated, in talking to various councils, was spent just in reine with the RENA process this year. So we do need to fundamentally relook at that, and I think hopefully we'll have some good ideas next year.
Great. Thank you so much for coming. I know that your time is limited, and so we really, really, really appreciate your coming here, and I hope that we get more updates next year. So yeah.
Thank you. Don't have to wait till next year. Come to my pancake breakfast.
Oh yeah.
I want pancakes.
When's the next
Good.
one?
Look forward to being back. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
So for this item, we are doing we are open for public comment now, and so how many we have?
Yes, Mayor, I believe we will have one request, at least one request in Community Hall. I see 2 requests virtually.
Yeah, and I understand that the legislators has another engagement and might have to leave soon, but I'm sure that you will be able to watch all the comments if you couldn't hear them directly today. Yeah.
Okay, Mayor, we have Jennifer Griffin, followed by Jean Bedord. And Ava Chow. Welcome, Jennifer.
Good evening, City Council. I'm glad everybody got here with all the rain. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it greatly. I'm very glad that our senator and assemblymen have come today. Cupertino is very, very engaged. I have been coming to the City Council meetings actually in this building since 2002, and then I was in the old one in the other building. I will tell you right now, I think that there is a discommunication between the legislature and the public, which has developed in the last 7 years. I'm sorry, I have a lisp. I've got a tooth that was fixed. And I have never seen it so bad. The legislature, not our 2 gentlemen here, but other people, Senator Weiner, Senator Skinner, who is retired, Buffy Wicks, they are not engaging with the public in the state. I was in the Catalyst for Local Control Zoom earlier tonight. There was a gentleman presenting on the terrible financial difficulties that MTC and BART have, and VTA. I am so glad that our senator is looking at RENA. You know, as I have said before, the statistics are shot. My husband has a master's degree in statistics, and I have seen the gentleman from Santa Monica who used to work as a CPA, and he has presented on the nonsense RENA. We need to get to the bottom of this. This is not allowed in science. You do not use junk numbers in science. Maybe now, but you don't do it. But I feel like we have been abandoned there's so many housing bills. Yes, they need to slow down. I don't want SB 79. I think that they're trying to terrorize and scare the people in the public to keep us quiet. My house is 1/4 mile from transit. I have read SB 79. I've spent the whole summer and since February studying it with 3 of the groups: Livable California, Catalyst for Local Control, and Our Neighborhood Voices. That bill is unreadable. It is nonsense. It's like RENA. Let's slow down, respect the public. I feel like we have been given so much garbage from SB 79, I'm insulted as an educated woman with a bachelor's in biochemistry.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next, we have Jean Bedord, followed by Ava Chow. Welcome, Jean. And there's...
Sorry, I'm on number 4, which is Measure A.
Oh, okay, very good. So then we will move to those members of the public requesting to speak virtually. We have one hand raised, San Rao. Welcome, San.
We have Eva here.
I'm also just clarifying
also-
on Measure A.
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor Chow and council members and our state senator and state assembly member, if they're still there in the community hall. I'd like to request the help of Assembly Member Ahans and State Senator Becker on the amendment to AB 645 to include additional cities in AB 645. AB 645 currently pilots speed cameras, but that is limited to 6 cities only. We would like to see Cupertino included in AB 645. I believe Berkeley has passed a resolution requesting the inclusion of Berkeley in AB 645, and that is still pending. And as you may consider additional cities, we would like you to support the reduction of speed limits in Cupertino, and perhaps you have other cities in your constituency that would like to join as well. I would like Cupertino council members to really focus on issues that are local. I don't really understand what our council agenda prioritization here is, but we seem to be politically resume building here in going after all these LRC resolutions and ignoring the things that we really care about, which is our accidents on our Stevens Creek and Dianza and Homestead and Bollinger that you seem to be solving with concrete. And concrete is only enriching the concrete contractors. They do nothing for safety. Concrete does nothing for intersections. It does nothing for the speedsters and red light violators. So I would like to see a future agenda item from Cupertino City Council members on the resolution requesting the inclusion of Cupertino in AB 645. And I would like you to actively lobby our state legislators to include Cupertino as Berkeley has done. And let's get Cupertino in. I hear excuses saying we cannot do this because it's a pilot, and that's an excuse. You can do better than this. You can lobby our state legislators. That's one that actually helps local residents. So let's focus on getting Cupertino into AB 645. Thank you.
Thank you, San. And Mayor, no additional requests to speak on this item?
I could. Okay. So we would like to thank you for staying here, and we would like to take a photo with you guys. Yeah.
Thanks everybody for being silent. I got mine.
Thank you all so much.
Okay, thank you for all the work you do. You guys do the hard work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So next we have the item 4. That's accept ad hoc legislative review committee subcommittee's recommendation regarding Major A, and we included the entire ballot measure description for information. Should I read them? Just for the record. I think maybe I won't read it. It's in the agenda packet. That's just a copy from the ballot language. And so, City Attorney, would you like to say something about the
Yes.
campaigning?
Yes, thank you. I just want to mention that under Government Code 8314, it's important that the council, as they consider whether the council is supporting Measure A or not, that they refrain from campaigning. The council shouldn't be attempting to convince the public how to vote one way or the other, or debating while you debate the city's position. You should refrain from suggesting how the public should vote or why they should be persuaded one way or the other. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I'd like to clarify, I think in a previous meeting, I had informed the public we might have a study session on the healthcare and federal cuts that this county has proposed to do a presentation on. At the time, we thought we would do a study session on the healthcare cost so we can get both sides of the information rather than just a one-sided presentation from the county, which they have offered to do to multiple cities. But then at the advice of the city attorney, we decide even a discussion of the county's healthcare cost or the current federal cost might be putting us in a position where we are using the public resource to campaign for Measure A or against, then that we should not do. For this item today, our focus is on whether the city council as a whole should take a position on this ballot measure or not. I think we all individually have taken a position, but I have been open about my opposition. I'm on the ballot argument opposed. However, any discussion today would be on should the city take a position as a city council. Yeah. So, any other question from the council members? Otherwise, we would just go to public comment.
Yes, Mayor, I have 6 requests to speak from in Community Hall, and I see 2 requests virtually. So that is about 24 minutes.
Okay, so that's good. I think given the experience from the last meeting where we spent almost 3.5 hours on public comment, I was going to adopt a new policy on agenda items that maybe we should set a limit of 30 minutes. If there are more speakers, we might shorten the time so that the council has a chance to do our deliberation, because this is the only time we can hear from each other. But looks like we don't need that policy if we are staying with 30 minutes. Okay, let's hear the comments.
Okay. First, we have Michael Elliott, followed by Steve Barron, followed by Dennis Lowe. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, and to members of the City Council. I'm Michael Elliott. I'm here today in my capacity as Executive Director of Valley Health Foundation, and I'd like to respectfully ask that you reconsider the position on the agenda in opposition to Measure A. This is a crisis that is caused entirely by unprecedented and historic cuts to federal health care programs that will cause a crisis of hospital closures around the country, and this is our temporary solution to prevent hospital closure in Santa Clara County. And I just want to be clear on the consequences to all of us, no matter where you normally get your health care. Santa Clara County is the second lowest county in California for the number of ED beds per resident. The lowest, by the way, is San Mateo. So that means 2 neighboring counties already have a shortage of emergency department services. It is raining right now. Your closest trauma center is at Santa Clara Valley Medical Center. In events of stroke, in car accidents, in burn injuries, where you need quick access to an emergency department or trauma center, our goal for Measure A, temporarily, is to prevent catastrophic service loss. It comes required with independent audits. It comes required with the Citizens Oversight Committee. It is our best effort to avoid this tsunami coming at all of us. And I would urge you to reconsider your position. And as always, at Valley Health Foundation, we are here and eager to bring you down to our medical centers, to provide you more information. You are leaders in our community, and we would be honored to have your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Steve Barron, followed by Dennis Lowe, followed by Vivian Lowe. Welcome, Steve.
Mayor, council members, good evening. I'm Steve Barron, a resident of Cupertino for over half a century. Have enjoyed its overall great quality of life. The kids have all gone to school from elementary school through high school, go Matadors. Enjoy the safety of the community and the low crime rate. And I'm also a longtime member, but not speaking for, the County Child Abuse Prevention Council, the Child Death Review Team, and the Domestic Violence Death Review Team, all entities which understand the importance of sustaining quality medical care for all of our county's children and adults as a key component of both preventing and treating child abuse and neglect and domestic violence. There has only been one time when I was not proud of our city in the 50-some years that I've been here. When some residents fought against transforming a dead Valco Mall into a mixed-use development, which included the provision of much-needed housing, including low-income housing, which we need more of. I felt compelled at that time to write a letter to the editor to the Mercury News, expressing my personal embarrassment and shame, because we apparently were expressing an attitude that, well, we got ours, the heck with everybody else. That issue is coming up again in a different format based on the federal cuts, the draconian federal cuts attacking healthcare agencies, institutions, the science behind them, and the provision of healthcare services, including to the least advantage of our county. I hope this time I get the opportunity to write a letter expressing my deep admiration and appreciation for all of you, for the courage and compassion being demonstrated by our city council members doing the right thing by supporting Proposition A to sustain to the best that we can the provision of quality medical care for all of our children and all of our adults in this county, including the least advantaged. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Dennis Lowe, followed by Vivian Lowe, followed by Jean Bedord. Welcome, Dennis.
Good evening. Thank you, Honorable Mayor and council members. It's my pleasure to introduce myself. I'm Dr. Dennis Lowe. I've lived and voted in Cupertino since 1980. We've raised our 3 kids in our public school system here. I've practiced internal medicine and emergency services throughout Santa Clara County in both public and private hospitals. I urge you not to oppose Measure A. Why? As recently as 2021, during the COVID pandemic, we were contacted by a West San Jose father living in a hotel quarantine isolation with acute COVID. He was suffering increasing respiratory difficulty. Because we had a team networked with all the emergency rooms, we got him to the one that could immediately treat him, and in 48 hours, he avoided intensive care and possible death. Just recently, within the last few months, we had a toddler child accidentally scald himself with hot tea. The nearest emergency room to Cupertino had a 4 to 5 hour wait. They redirected our care appropriately, but had it been a severe burn, that child would have been immediately transferred to Santa Clara Valley Medical Center and the Burn Center. We in Cupertino do not benefit from being an isolated village. We are a center of excellence, but part of a thriving larger community of private and public partnerships. Please do not isolate us from the other 14 cities of this magnificent county. You may not vote as a council to support it, but I urge you not to oppose it. I respect your individual decision, but please recognize the importance of Measure A. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Vivian Lowe, followed by Jean Bedord, followed by Ava Chow. Welcome, Vivian.
Thank you. I am a registered nurse who has lived in this city since 1980. I support Measure A. Today, I am not feeling good about Cupertino. Last month, you deferred action and suggested we return for a study session to be planned with the county representative for Measure A, and you explained why that didn't happen. However, I know that a county representative has been to a Mountain View City Council meeting and a Palo Alto City Council meeting, so I'm not sure what the discrepancy is, but we are here as you invited us, and we hope that you will listen to the messages. Measure A was approved by 100% vote of the County Board of Supervisors, and yet in our entire county, Cupertino would be the only city to actively oppose Measure A. Cupertino would be the only nonpartisan entity to oppose it, and the only government who publicly does so during a crisis of this magnitude. This was not at the request of your voters. I don't know how to discuss Cupertino with my fellow healthcare professionals. I know that even Senator Becker and Assemblyman Aaron are in support of Measure A. I have been with patients and families in hospitals when tragedy and hardship strikes. Often the best that you can do when you see suffering is to know that everyone is doing as much as they can. There are no bragging rights about a decision that could delay care and cause more loss of emergency services. I would prefer to be proud of a city that is known for positive collaboration to protect lives. Please reconsider your negative position on Measure A. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jean Bedord, followed by Ava Chow. Welcome, Jean.
Good evening, council and staff. My name is Jean Bedord, and I am a Cupertino resident. I am here to ask the council to take a neutral position on Measure A. As a council, you do not have consensus, and you certainly do not have my support. My husband was in a bad accident, and Valley Medical saved his life. I want others to have that same access to emergency care, not be restricted. It's important that everyone, not just residents of Cupertino, but throughout the county, have access to that medical care. And Mayor Chow, I object to your signature on the ballot as Cupertino mayor. This may be legal, but it's highly inappropriate for an elected official to take a position. Please do not oppose Measure A. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Next, we have Ava Chow. Welcome, Ava.
Dear council members, my name is Ava Chow. I'm also a Cupertino Union School District trustee, and I'm speaking on my own behalf tonight. I'm speaking on Measure A because it's really important. As a teacher in Eastside San Jose, Measure A is going to affect 25% of our county residents. It's also going to affect, I am lucky to have private insurance as a school teacher, and through that insurance, my insurance is going to be impacted through if the county hospitals are to be closed, we're going to have longer hours and longer wait times that is already long enough in the emergency rooms. Our hospital staff are going to be overworked. The county hospital also, like 2 weeks ago, there was an accident on Stelling. And then there's some huge accident that happens to anybody. Car accidents happen all the time. We're going to have to go into a trauma center. The number one trauma center is our county hospitals. We want that to be open, and they're open for anybody who needs it, not just because they have private insurance or the county through Medicare. This is a health emergency. We want people to have the same access of insurance and give that. And to be going back on the comment about 3 hours of public comment last time. Last time we had 16 speakers times 3 minutes. I think if we had the full 3 minutes, it would have been 48 minutes. This time we have less speakers. And I want to advocate for Measure A because we need it. We want to be able to provide for others as well. Even if you have private insurance, this is going to impact you as well. We want to be able to provide a number one trauma center, burn center as well. Between here and LA, Santa Clara County hospitals have one of the 3 burn centers available. This is not just because it is only a 5/8 of a cent tax. It is going to be temporary up to 5 years. This is the maximum in which the county can do. For the next year, about $200 and some million will be in debt for the county. The second year, about $500,000. By the third year, it will be $1 billion. The 5/8 cents tax will provide $330 million per year for the next 5 years. There will be accountability. There will be people sitting on a public commission to check and where the money going, and there will be reports out to our county residents. So please, do not oppose Measure A. Thank you.
Thank you, Ava. And now we will move to those members of the public requesting to speak virtually. Alan Kamara, followed by Neil Park McClintock, followed by San Rao. Welcome, Alan.
Good evening, council member and mayor. My name is Alan Kamara. I am a registered nurse. at Santa Clara Valley Medical, and I am a trauma charge nurse at our only level 1 trauma center in this area. I get the privilege to take care of patients every day. What is unfortunate is today, I'm right in front of you pleading to you because I get to see firsthand taking care of your own resident. I'm also the vice president of the Registered Nurses Professional Association. We have about 5,000 nurses, some of whom live in Cupertino. And we have plenty of our patients that come from Cupertino. We are the only level 1 trauma center in this area, the only burn center. And we have a spinal cord rehab center. It doesn't matter if you have insurance or not, if you're involved in any catastrophic accident, I guarantee you will wish someone of us were taking care of you or your loved ones. As nurses, we don't see your politics. And it's interesting, as Michael Elliott was speaking, I see Cancel Wang waving his head. And that leaves picture in my head when we're here in front of you, advocating for our patient. I don't care your politics. We, the nurses, I speak for over 5,000 nurses. We don't care about people's politics. During the COVID, everybody was home. I'm not an advocate for the county board of supervisor. I may have my own disagreement with so many things on behalf of our nurses. But one thing we agree with is on Measure A. Thank God they were able to acquire regional. Thank God they were able to acquire St. Louis and O'Connor. You know what, Councilmember Wang, I respect you, but as somebody who takes care of patients, who our job is to save life, I invite you to tour with me at our facilities. If you're willing to take that challenge, I'll tour with you in our facility so you can see the long waiting time, how under-resourced we are. Imagine if we have any other cuts. Please vote yes on Measure A and support Measure A.
Thank you. That is your time. Next, we have Neil Park McClintock, followed by San Rao. Welcome, Neil.
Hello, my name is Neil, and as a member of the public, I would like to encourage the council to adopt a neutral position on Measure A. I want to start by stating that the way this process has happened has been extremely disappointing, in addition to just being flat out unnecessary. At the last meeting where this item was considered, members of the public were told that this would be deferred and guided by a public presentation by experts from the county. The county has regularly been providing this presentation or a similar version of this presentation to local governments throughout the county. There's no reason to think that this presentation is the equivalent of using public resources to campaign for the measure. That's simply not true. This is a governance failure, and especially for a mayor and a political faction that frankly campaigned on transparency and good governance. Now, going back to Cupertino's proposed position on the measure. If Cupertino adopts this position, it will be the only public entity, the only local government to take this position in the entire county, at a time when our public healthcare system could collapse due to historic federal cuts. Measure A has the support of our local state legislators, including the two who just presented and whose hands you just shook and said that you wanted to work with. The entire County Board of Supervisors, the entire county board, not a majority, all five supervisors on the board, more than 35 council members, and virtually every prominent nonprofit that can take a position, and every single community service organization as well. You are being begged by nurses, doctors, and highly trained specialists to support this. Why does this council think that it knows better about how to run a public healthcare system? when the county leadership and the actual people who work in the public healthcare system are pleading, begging you, and telling you that's just not how this works. I also want to share a conversation that I had with a libertarian voter who said that they wouldn't support any taxes. It's just against their political philosophy. When I talked about Measure A and all the things that it will help ensure are able to keep running, he said that he would think about it. And the reason was that despite the fact that he doesn't support any new taxes, he thinks that Santa Clara County has one of the best public healthcare systems that he's ever seen. And he's very impressed by the county's healthcare system, that he had personally interacted with it and had a great experience. And this is from someone who is, just fundamentally not an innate supporter of public systems. Santa Clara County has a reputation for having one of the best public healthcare systems. It's the second largest in the entire state. We have one of the best burn wards and one of a handful between Oregon and Los Angeles, one of 3. The county provides so many essential services. It has a great reputation when it comes to healthcare. And please.
Thank you, Neil. That is your time. And next we have San Rao. Welcome, San.
Good evening, Mayor Chow and council members. I am opposed to any position being taken by the council on Sacramento legislative matters unless it is very specific to our local governance and has clear resident support. An example of that was AB 645 that I talked about earlier. Speeding is an issue that everybody can get behind. Other than that, I urge you to stay out of politics at the state or federal level. Cupertino has diverse opinions. Not all residents are comfortable voicing those opinions. And this is not the place to turn our city council into a political faction on dais or off dais. Let's focus our city resources on solving residents' problems. The average resident is not looking up to you to cast their vote on this issue. You need to understand that. You may take a position individually as council members, and that is actually very informative, because residents who may agree or disagree on a certain ballot position may look to which council members hold similar views. However, as a council, you are wasting city resources. This meeting could have been spent solving people's business. You could have spent this meeting in talking about how you're going to operationalize the oversized vehicle parking ordinance that is going to go into effect in just under a week. You could have spent this meeting in clearing the sidewalk and talking about what needs to be done to make sure our sidewalks are free of encampments. You could have spent this meeting in looking at what you could do to lobby for AB 645. Instead, we're wasting our time with all of this drama on whether you should take a position or not, when none of this is going to be influencing residents' votes. Please do not spend our city resources on Sacramento or Washington, D.C. matters. Please focus on solving resident issues. If you must have a special meeting, you need to spend it 100% on issues that we, the residents, are asking for. And nobody that I know of is asking you to take this position. I would actually go further and ask you to disclose why, as a council, you are agendizing and prioritizing this issue. Whose political resume building is happening here? Because the public deserves to know. Thank you.
And our final speaker is Cassandra Magana. Welcome, Cassandra.
Sorry, I'm waiting for the timer to restart. Can we restart it? Thank you. Hi, Mayor and City Council members. I'm here representing West Valley Community Services. As you guys are all well aware, West Valley Community Services has fully supported Measure A, and we have endorsed it ourselves, as many other nonprofits, including the full safety network, emergency assistance network in Santa Clara County, have endorsed it. All of the nonprofits are behind it. I do want to emphasize that whether or not Santa Clara County health system is affecting Cupertino, or whether we don't have clinics in Cupertino, whatever the reason may be, I do urge the council to either take a neutral stance or to not make a sentiment of opposing it. I personally speaking, we are 1 month until open enrollment for to choose your health insurance. If you are on private health insurance, you are already seeing the effects of the federal cuts. You can see the price tag, and as someone who is on private health insurance myself, my price tag has gone up about $700. So if we want to make this about whether or not it's private or county, county is that last line of defense for a lot of people, for our most vulnerable communities. I urge you guys to do the right thing. This isn't whether or not something happens. We see clients every day that come in crisis, and when they do not have access to quality health care, that worsens. People will die if our ERs are closing. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassandra. Mayor, no additional requests to speak on this item?
Okay, thank you. First of all, this is not a state ballot measure. This is a county ballot measure, and the reason that this affects the city is actually many cities. Cupertino not included we did, but many cities are considering sales measures of their own for either 2026 or 2028 because of city deficit. I've spoken to other council member and mayors, specifically Milpitas, Mountain View, and Morgan Hill are all considering that, and this would take away the city's ability. So it's very important for each city council to weigh in on this important matter. If the county is increasing sales tax, it affects all the city council in our revenue source. And then another question was, I wish we had the study session, because if the county were able to make their presentation on the healthcare cost, then I could have challenged them about why they took over 4 bankrupt hospitals, why the cost has doubled, why our cost per person is double of LA County, why couldn't we consider special districts such as El Camino Hospital? But I couldn't do all that now because I have a long list of reasons that without the study session, we couldn't have a healthy discussion on whether to support or not support. So I wished we had the study session, but we have to do this, and then I cannot fully even discuss the measure on whether we should take position on. We can only talk. I'm hoping we only talk about whether the council takes a position or not. Because of that, I think it's appropriate for me to read the draft letter and the reason we have to consider this is also we have legislative review committee, and they have proposed to take a position on that. So I think the council is obligated to consider that recommendation, even though personally I didn't like city council to take position normally on state ballot measure. For this one, I'm still not sure. But let me read the draft letter so that we know what's being considered. We are considering today on the agenda is whether the council should support this draft letter recommended by the Legislative Action Committee. So I'll just read that. On behalf of the City Council, I'm writing in case it's approved. The mayor will send this letter to express our opposition to Measure A, the proposed 0.625% countywide sales tax measure appearing on November 2025 ballot. While we recognize the fiscal challenge facing county and the importance of sustaining healthcare services, we believe Measure A places an undue burden on residents and lacks the accountability and transparency that voters deserve. Sales tax are among the most regressive forms of revenue. disproportionately affecting low-income households, working families, and seniors on fixed income, at a time when many residents are already struggling with high costs of living. An additional tax would deepen financial strain. Moreover, because Measure A is structured as a general tax, the revenues are not dedicated specifically to healthcare services. Without clear safeguards, funds could be diverted to other purposes, undermining public trust and failing to ensure that the measure addresses the very healthcare challenges it is intended to solve. The timing of this proposal is also problematic. Placing such a significant revenue measure on a special election ballot reduces public awareness and limits voter participation, which does not reflect the level of engagement this issue deserves. Even if Measure A is approved, the projected revenues will cover only a portion of county's long-term healthcare funding shortfall, leaving critical gaps unaddressed and creating uncertainty for the future of our public hospital system. The City of Cupertino fully supports efforts to sustain and strengthen healthcare access for all residents. But we believe Measure A is not the right approach. We urge the board to pursue alternatives that are more equitable, transparent, and sustainable, and to engage cities as true partners in developing solutions. We stand ready to work collaboratively towards strategies that protect public health without placing an excessive burden on our residents. For these reasons, the City of Cupertino opposed. This is the draft letter proposed by the committee. So maybe we should hear from the Legislative Action Committee. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not sure, given the advice at the start of the meeting, what information I'm able to share. But I do have a chart showing the change in spending by policy area from fiscal year 2015 to 2025, showing how finance and government increased, Santa Clara County Valley Health and Hospital System, that increased. Public safety and justice went down. Children, seniors, and families went down. Housing, land use, environment, and transportation also decreased in that time frame. And then I have another chart showing how...
Can we show the chart?
I can show this? Okay.
Can we share a screen?
Sure.
The previous one is...
I'll go back to that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So these are the 5 policy areas for the Santa Clara County budget. And as I just mentioned, finance and government increased. This defines what that segment is. The next area, public safety and justice, has decreased. That's your local justice system, which includes the district attorney, detention facilities for adults and youth, the sheriff's department, policing services and probation, etc. Children, seniors, and families has decreased. I'll let you read that real quickly. And the Santa Clara Valley Health and Hospital System has increased, and as you can see, it has the lion's share of the funding from the county. And the last group, housing, land use, environment, and transportation, has also decreased. And I'll let you take a look there. And then I did a comparison. Well, here's some notes on this. As I said, finance and government and the hospital system spending increased. There was a purchase of 3 bankrupt hospitals. Of the 4 hospitals, 3 are in San Jose for the county. All other areas decreased as a percentage of the budget. 3 out of 4 of the county hospitals are in San Jose. Then I did a healthcare expenditure comparison for some other counties to see how our spending aligns. And as you can see, about 55% of Santa Clara County's budget is for the healthcare system. And you can compare that with other counties in the state. And then I provide a chart so you can have a sense for how our county is allocating their budget. I'll stop sharing screen now. Right, thank you. And then I'll see if Councilmember Wong has some comments.
Yeah, point of inquiry. I just want to make sure through the city attorney, what am I limited to being able to talk about here? I just want to double check.
It's important, Councilmember Wong, that you do not make arguments suggesting that voters should vote one way or the other. The ballots have been distributed, so we're kind of in the election cycle, and so you should keep your comments, very factual and brief.
I will do that. Then I appreciate that. I'm probably the only council member here that has a master's in public health and health finance and management, hospital administration.
You need to speak a little louder.
Okay, let me see if I can change some settings here, and it's really loud here, so I think the noise canceling is in place. Can you hear me now? Is that better?
Yeah, better.
Okay, thanks. I was saying I'm probably the only council member here that has a master's in hospital administration, an MPH from Johns Hopkins in health finance and management, and healthcare administration. I want to say that my whole family is in healthcare, but the saying is no margin, no mission. And what we have is a situation here that the burden that is being placed on everyone in the county, not just in Cupertino, is a burden from the stats and the data that you see that occurs when planners are put in a situation where they cannot control their costs, especially on the healthcare side. I had the pleasure of meeting Robert Sillen, the legendary administrator of Valley Medical Center, many times. And, he was in an era where he was able to control costs. And so I find it very constraining that we are not allowed to take a position. We are being asked not to take a position. We are being told by many people that are not, that we're unable to take a position. But the challenge really here is the impact to our local residents is an increase in taxes without any controls. Based on the measure, there are no controls for controlling the budget costs, and there are no dedications to having that measure's funds go particularly and specifically to the hospitals that we purchased. And so given that there's no budget cuts proposed, and given the fact that we continue to have a situation where costs continue to go up with no budget controls, it is upon us as residents to take a position, whether you're for it or against it. And as a council, there should be no limitations on our ability to take that position because it impacts everybody's lives. So, and that's why I'm making this statement. I'm saying I'm happy to sit down with the nurses. I'm happy to sit down with folks to come visit. But the bottom line is that we have a healthcare system that is overburdened, underfunded, and everybody in the system feels taxed. But right now, we're about to tax everybody in the system because we have no ability to cut costs or make prioritization. So however you feel about it, please take your positions. But this is why it's important for the council to take a position, because we need to say the things that need to be said and not necessarily be bullied by powers that feel one way or the other.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to comment? I don't see the list now. So Councilmember Fruin, you would like to? I mean, I see the list, but I don't see anyone. Okay, Councilmember Mohan.
He can go first.
Okay, Councilmember Fuan and Councilmember Mohan.
So I don't see any particularized impact to Cupertino that warrants our taking a position on Measure A. I think it's frankly rather embarrassing that we've put ourselves in this position. I really cannot square the notion that we're not able to have the county here to present on its financial condition, which is an apolitical issue, while we're simultaneously considering taking a position on a ballot measure that they've put before the voters. I don't see any logical connection to how that could have been campaigning. So I'm really perplexed by the way that we've been constrained today, and it feels deeply unsettling. And I don't see how we can take any position if that was impermissible.
Councilmember Mohan?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I want to keep my comments brief. I would like the city to not take a position on Measure A. We have an educated, we have an aware group of residents who can make up their own minds about whether they should vote yes or no on Measure A. And I don't think we as a council taking a position is helpful at all. This is something that we all are privy to vote on. We all get the ballot sheet, and we will all vote as befits our values. So we as a council, especially if we are not all subscribing to the same position, it doesn't make any sense. It is inappropriate and irrelevant. Thank you.
So you are supporting Measure A?
I am. I'm as a private
So you
citizen.
would not
I don't
support-
think I have to reveal that.
Okay.
Right?
So you would not support
I would not
the
support the-
council take a position
Correct.
to oppose?
That's right.
Okay. Okay. So I'm torn because I usually don't like the city council to take position on state measures where people were going to vote on. And for this one, I initially also didn't like the council to take a position, even though it might be a position that agree with my own position. But then I didn't like that. But at the same time, the reason I run for the city council is a lot of times we are going against narratives that's trying to tell everyone one thing, and I look at the facts and I see that that narrative doesn't make sense, and I stand up and I run because I need to stand up for what's right, and that's what has driven me to run for an elected position. Even for someone who really hardly cared about politics before. And for this one, I spoke to many council members, mayors. Privately, they actually all do not support Measure A, but none of them is willing to speak up against the county supervisors. I found that really appalling, that all of us who are elected, who are here, who understand how things works, and who are here to represent our city, but they are afraid to speak up. And that, then I'm thinking, I run for council specifically because I want to be able to stand up when things are not going right. Yes, it might be something people disagree on. But if I cannot do that, if I now say, just go along, I put my head in the sand, why am I even sitting here? So I think I didn't want the council to take a position, but specifically because we might be the only council, city council, who are willing to speak up when other people didn't think it's right, but they are afraid to speak up. And if we are also afraid, what makes us? What makes of our democracy? We are all kowtowing to a power that's trying to control all of the narratives. So now I'm kind of leaning towards of opposing Measure A specifically because we might be the only ones, but even though we might be criticized. But that has been what I do since I am elected. I take hard positions. But a lot of times when I take that position, I find out many people are behind, support me. Many people are afraid to speak up, but because I spoke up, I stood up, they are willing to speak up too now. So, yeah.
Can I?
So yeah, Councilmember Mohan, yeah. Oh, so sorry, I have Fruin and Vice Mayor Moore and Councilmember Mohan on the request to speak list. So Councilmember Fruin, and I don't know if Councilmember Wang has raised his hand. No. Okay, Councilmember Fruin, and then Vice Mayor, and then Mohan.
So I think you will find that there are plenty of people who disagree with you on the merits of Measure A, and I object rigorously to you dragging the rest of council into the view that this body and that this city should oppose it. And I will repeat my remonstration from earlier. If we're not even able to have the council, the county here to give us facts, we got a whole bunch of alleged facts without any additional context from the Legislative Review Committee, but they're not here to give their side of the story. And the reason that we're told that is supposedly that is campaigning, even though it is just facts. And yet we're being told that we should oppose this measure, and somehow that's not campaigning? Give me a break. Those two things are not logically able to follow each other. They're logically incongruent. This is ridiculous. So if you want to oppose it, that's on you.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. I just want to remind us all that when we faced the CDTFA audit originally told we would be looking at a $30 million decline in sales tax revenue for our budget, Cupertino first looked at 4 different tax measures at that time, and ultimately we decided that we would not be moving forward with any of them, but that we would be making cuts in the budget, and that we would be putting some greater burdens on the residents, including pushing the credit card fees onto the residents. And at that time, we even cut the 4th of July fireworks out of our budget. So I think Cupertino really set an excellent example about how to handle a budget crisis at that time. And as a member of the LRC, I do move that we accept the recommended action, that we accept the ad hoc LRC City Council Subcommittee recommendation to oppose Measure A and authorize the mayor to send a position letter to the state and county. And to the point of the county not being here, they are, of course, certainly welcome to speak during public comments. If they had some factual information which they wanted to provide, they could do that. I don't.
Actually, the discussion at the time was to not be campaigning. We need to allow both sides to provide factual information. County, if we have county presenting facts about the county, we would need to invite another group that's opposing the mayor to provide their facts, because there are often different set of facts. And I would have loved, for that study session, because I have my own facts to present too, but I couldn't because we are not having that study session. If we had a study session where only the county is able to present one-sided presentation, whether it's campaigning, and why are they presenting it now, not last year, and not after the election? So I think city attorney made a right call to not trade us into that situation. And so I think we did contemplate, could we invite both groups for and against, but it was too much hassle, so okay.
Point of order,
Councilmember
Mr. Mayor. We have a motion in play. Can I second it?
Councilmember Mohan and then Councilmember Wang.
No, point of order. We have a motion in play. I'm seconding it.
Oh, second the motion. Okay.
That Vice Mayor Moore made.
Okay, thank you. And Councilmember Mohan.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to again say how strongly I feel about this issue. I think we should abstain from taking a position. It's not about, I heard your arguments, Mayor, that you feel it's the right thing to do, and you are perfectly at liberty to do what you want to do as a private citizen and a voter. You can vote yes or no, or however you feel. I also heard the Vice Mayor's comments about the county's priorities being skewed. Whether we agree with that or not, there is a process to provide input or feedback into the county's priorities. This is not the time to do it. They do have a process, and our city is welcome, I'm sure, to go and speak before their budget proceedings. But today is not the day to realign their priorities with ours. So let me reiterate again and again that I would like us to stay away from taking any position. It doesn't make sense, it's irrelevant, and it's inappropriate.
Councilmember Fruin.
I wholeheartedly agree with Councilmember Mohan. And as the only other attorney on this dais, if the advice that the city attorney has given you was as you just described it, then I also disagree with that advice. We are the only two people on this dais who have the legal education to actually weigh in on that issue. The county could have been here to give a presentation on their financial condition. They have done that in many other cities. It is not the same as showing up on something that involves a measure and then definitely campaigning for or against it. I have spoken with Steve Preminger from the county. They would not come tonight to make a presentation because this item is about Measure A. If it had been an item on just the facts of what their financial condition is, they could have made that presentation as they have in many other cities. It is embarrassing that we are this close to saying that this city opposes Measure A, especially after Palo Alto managed to support it 6-0 just a week ago. This is very silly. I'm going to make a substitute motion that we take no position on Measure A.
Okay, so...
and I'll second that.
Oh, okay. Okay. So let's vote on the substitute motion. Actually, I have a question. So Now I'm leaning towards taking a position, but I feel the letter is not strong enough. So should we add more to the letter, specifically on the impact to the city? I think many cities, this would prevent many cities from putting on their own sales measure. We actually are looking at our police cost would increase. That likely many other cities are also facing that. I think Milpitas already was thinking of a major. So the county is competing with the city for revenue source. And should we add that to the letter?
Through the chair, Mayor, if you would like to add that, I think that would be fine to, you can amend the original motion to add a statement regarding the impact to cities trying to have a sales tax revenue or a parcel tax or some sort of tax revenue moving forward for their own local needs. You could do that. I think it makes a strong statement already with the letter that you already have. Simply taking that position, I think, is an important step. So if you would like to see, after we take a vote on the substitute motion, if you'd like to have the original motion amended,
Okay.
that can be done.
So we are not doing a motion with amended letter.
Well, right now you have the substitute motion on the floor,
Okay.
and then we'll go back once we can move this along, and then when you get back to the main motion, we can amend it to include your request.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So then let's vote on the substitute motion first.
Councilmember Fruin,
Yes.
Councilmember Mohan,
Yes.
Councilmember Wong,
No.
Vice Mayor Moore,
No.
Mayor Chow.
No.
The motion fails with Fruin and Mohan voting yes.
Thank you. Mayor, would you like to restate what your friendly amendment is to the original motion?
So I'd like to add in the draft letter that this measure would prevent, so many cities are also facing deficit right now. I'm not sure, should I mention the cities? There are cities I have spoken to, Milpitas, Morgan Hill, and Mountain View are all considering. But maybe I don't have to mention the cities. But they are all facing deficit right now or projected for the next few years, and they are considering sales tax measure. So this would prevent cities from collecting sales tax or in other form because the voters are already overburdened by taxes. And I think they didn't mention that the county also opted in to the transit measure in 2026. That will be on the 2026 ballot measure that will add, how much is the percentage? Half a percent of sales tax. So we are looking at another 0.5% increase in sales tax next year. So multiple people are trying to put their hands into the pocket of taxpayers.
Mayor, may I add, you're saying prevent, may I suggest be something to the effect that it would be an impediment to? Because they can try, but it might cause it to fail.
Yeah.
Okay. So I accept that amendment, and does the seconder?
Do we also mention the VTA tax measure that's upcoming?
I accept that also.
The county supervisors opted in for that.
I accept that also from SB 63. Does the seconder accept? Councilmember Wong?
Yes. Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, So City Clerk, do you get the motion?
Yes,
I probably
Mayor.
use the more words than necessary. The key is just to mention the cities. Many cities are also facing deficit, and this measure will be predicament for. Vice Mayor, would you like to rephrase that? Maybe?
Yes, so the city clerk can use the recording as well, but I use the word impediment as opposed to prevent. Okay.
Yes. Would you like me to read it back?
Yeah.
Okay. Many cities are also facing budget deficits right now. Now, do you want to mention, but you've spoken to several, including...
I think, yeah, we can say I've spoken to several city council members and mayors, and many of them are considering, we don't need to mention specific cities. Multiple of them are considering their own sales, their own
similar
tax
measures.
measure.
Okay. They're projecting continued deficits over the next few years and are exploring potential sales tax measures to address them. However, this proposal could limit the city's ability to collect additional local taxes since voters are already feeling overburdened. Additionally, the county has opted into a transit measure that will appear on the 2026 ballot. That measure would add another 0.5% to the sales tax, meaning another increase next year.
So
you can wordsmith
yeah,
that afterwards.
the mayor will be authorized to smoothen the language.
Okay. And then, this measure would impede, did you say, Vice Mayor, you wanted to use the word?
Be an impediment to.
Be an impediment to prevent these cities from enacting their own measures?
Impediment to enacting their own
An impediment
measures.
to enacting their own measures.
And the mayor can wordsmith this afterwards.
Okay,
I think the gist is there.
Okay, and then also mention the upcoming VTA tax measures.
Yeah.
Since the county supervisors have already opted into it.
And if I may, I'd make a suggestion that what we're trying to do is address the affordability crisis.
What?
We're trying to address the affordability crisis. We continue to create taxes that actually make it very unaffordable to live here. So.
Yeah, so it's just a comment, right? Okay.
Just a comment.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, let's vote.
Before you do, so a question to the city attorney, in all seriousness. If the county was not allowed to come here and make a presentation on its financial situation because that's campaigning, please explain to this body how it is that we're allowed to vote on a position on Measure A and that's not. Because otherwise, I object to the fact that we are even doing this. That seems like it is campaigning, and we shouldn't even be here.
Councilmember Fruin, if the county had been here tonight, then opposition would have been here tonight. That was sort of part of the understanding about how it would play. And in my opinion, having bodies that are pro and bodies that are opposed invited to speak to the council and the public about why the measure was good or the measure was bad for the county or the city would have evolved into campaigning. And so I did not
How is
believe-
that different from what just happened?
Because in this instance, the council is voting on whether to adopt a position that one of its committees has brought forward. It's
I
not.
don't see how that is any different from campaigning. I'm sorry, I just disagree with your view. This was all inappropriate. Thank you.
So city attorney, has city council and the board supervisors taken position on ballot measures? Other city council.
I don't know.
I think
I mean, other city councils. I don't know for sure.
But not this particular one. But I think it has been. There have been council member city council or just public agency who take position on. For example, Palo Alto took a position to support, right? So there have been city council who take position on ballot measures, support or oppose. That's actually commonly done.
Yes.
And then, of course, when you support or oppose, you have a letter to state the reasons.
Generally speaking, yes.
Yeah. So, okay, let's vote then.
Councilmember Fruin,
No to the mayor's bait and switch.
Councilmember Mohan,
No.
Councilmember Wong,
Yes, please.
Vice Mayor Moore,
Aye.
Mayor Chow.
Aye.
The motion carries with Fruin and Mohan voting no.
Okay, meeting is adjourned.